Example 9, constructing a modified box plot. Now we're going to use the 50 Space Mountain 10 a.m. wait times to construct a modified box plot. Let's begin with the 4 steps for identifying outliers in a modified box plot. Now from this example, we already know what the 3 quartiles are. Quartile 1 is 25, quartile 2 is 35, and quartile 3 is 50. Now we need to find the inner quartile range. Now remember, the inner quartile range is taking quartile 3 and then subtracting quartile 1. So recall that quartile 3 is 50, and then we're subtracting quartile 1, which is 25. So 50 minus 25 gives us 25. So now we know that the inner quartile range is 25. So we would say that the inner quartile range is equal to 25. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate. We're going to take 1.5 and then multiply it by the inner quartile range. So remember, the inner quartile range is 25. So if we take 1.5 and multiply that by 25, we end up getting 37.5. Now, in a modified box plot, a data value is an outlier if it is the following. Okay, if quartile 3, okay, now here we know that when we evaluate this number, we get 37.5. So if quartile 3 plus 37.5. Now remember, quartile 3 is 50, and we evaluated 1.5 times the inner quartile range, which is 37.5. When we add them together, we get 87.5. Now likewise, we're going to take a look at below. So if we take quartile 1, which we know is 25, and now what we're going to do is subtract 37.5, then we get negative 12.5. So now anything be above 87.5 or anything below negative 12.5 will be considered an outlier. So let's take a look at the box plot. So again, this means that any outliers are greater than 87.5 or less than negative 12.5. The negative 12.5 would be impossible because there's no outliers at the low end in this example because we don't have any numbers that's in the negative value. So we can now examine the original Space Mountain wait times, okay, and then identify any wait times greater than 87.5, and we find these values. So if we come up here, anything that's greater than 87.5, well, we know that we have 105 and 110. So therefore, we would say that the only outliers are 105 and 110. So now we can construct a modified box plot as shown below. You can see here that the 2 outliers to the right are identified as special points. They are asterisks. So you can see here that you have 105 that's an outlier and 110 that's an outlier. Now the 3 quartiles are shown in the regular box plot. So remember, the minimum value is 10, the maximum is 75, and then we have our quartile 1, quartile 2, and quartile 3. And again, the horizontal line extends from the lowest data value that is not an outlier, 10, to the highest data values that is not an outlier as well. So you can see here that the minimum and maximum are not outliers, but you can see that these values, 105 and 110, are outliers.